Ever seen a viper get its fangs yanked out on live television? That's the only way to describe what happened the night Amelia Thorne, a young, relatively unknown economist, walked into the viper's nest that was the stern truth, and left its host, the infamously acerbic Marcus Stern, utterly speechless. The studio throbbed with manufactured energy. Cameras, sleek and watchful, lurked in the shadows. The cityscape, a dazzling grid of ambition and dreams, served as a backdrop, a stark contrast to the gladiatorial arena taking shape within. All eyes, both in the studio and glued to screens across the nation, were fixed on the stage. More specifically, on Marcus Stern. A titan of opinion, built his empire on dissecting political opponents with surgical precision and a healthy dose of venom, waited. His name alone could send shivers down the spines of seasoned politicians. Tonight, he had his sights set on a new target. Across from him sat Amelia Thorne, fresh-faced, earnest, and decidedly out of place. At least that's the impression Marcus and his hand-picked panel were trying to cultivate. The panelists, veterans of countless media wars, exchanged knowing glances. They anticipated a spectacle, a lamb being led to the slaughter. Marcus, basking in the pre-show adrenaline, leaned back in his plush chair, a predatory glint in his eyes. He tapped his fingers against the polished table, a subtle drum roll building anticipation for the takedown to come. "All right, Amelia," he drawled, drawing out her name with exaggerated condescension. "Let's get straight to the point. You're young, bright-eyed, and seemingly under the delusion that fiscal conservatism isn't just code for enriching the wealthy. Tell me, are you here to defend policies that haven't worked in decades, or is this simply a glorified audition for a cable news gig?" A ripple of suppressed laughter washed over the panel. This was Stern's signature move, the preemptive strike designed to unsettle and disarm. Amelia remained impassive. Her hands, clasped demurely on the table, betrayed no tremor of anxiety. She listened, patiently, allowing Stern to spin his web of assumptions. She didn't rush to defend herself. Stern, mistaking her composure for weakness, pressed his advantage. "I mean, let's be honest," he continued, adjusting his impeccably tailored suit. "You're exactly what conservative think tanks drool over. Articulate, telegenic, and willing to parrot the same tired rhetoric about trickle-down economics and bootstraps. The only question is, do you actually believe any of it, or is it all just a performance?" The camera zoomed in, capturing Stern's smug grin. The panelists, like well-trained seals, watched with thinly veiled amusement. Amelia tilted her head, a subtle gesture of curiosity. Her expression remained a carefully guarded mystery. She was letting him talk, allowing him to dig himself deeper. He assumed he had the upper hand, that she was close to breaking. "Is that a serious question?" she finally asked, her voice a smooth, even tone that cut through the manufactured tension. Stern shrugged, feigning nonchalance. "Oh, I'm sorry. Did I strike a nerve?" Another chuckle erupted from the panel. The trap was seemingly set. Marcus was riding high, confident in his ability to dismantle his opponent piece by piece. But something flickered in Amelia's eyes. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anger. It was something far more dangerous. Unwavering certainty. She leaned forward, her gaze locking onto his. Unbeknownst to Stern, he was about to experience his most humiliating moment on live television. The moment he realized he had horribly underestimated his opponent. He sensed an opportunity. He had seen it all before. The moment when young, idealistic conservatives crumbled under the weight of his intellectual superiority. So, he leaned in, pushing harder, tightening the screws. "You know, Amelia," he said, dripping with sarcasm, "I have to admire your dedication. It takes a special kind of commitment to defend a party that, frankly, seems to view economics as a zero-sum game where the rich always win. The middle class and the poor, well, they get to enjoy the crumbs." The panel roared with laughter, the sound echoing in the studio. Amelia's face remained unchanged. Not a flicker, not a twitch. Marcus, blinded by his own arrogance, mistook her composure for a desperate attempt to maintain a facade. He pressed on, smelling blood in the water. "And I have to ask," he continued, feigning genuine curiosity, "do you actually believe what you're saying, or is this all just a long-term hustle? You know, say the right things, keep the donors happy, maybe land a cushy think tank job when this whole experiment inevitably implodes." one of the panelists, a writer for a left-leaning online publication, jumped into the fray, eager to join the pile-on. "Let's not forget the GOP playbook," she sneered, shaking her head in mock pity. "Find someone young, marketable, and willing to regurgitate the same tired policies in a shiny new package. Honestly, Amelia, do you ever feel like they're just using you?" Another wave of laughter crashed over the studio, the rhythm of the attack growing increasingly relentless. Marcus, sensing the impending knockout, saw his chance to cement his victory. "I mean, look at your position, Amelia," he declared, his voice laced with condescension. "You're out here defending a party that, let's face it, profits of division. Do you see the hypocrisy? Or are you contractually obligated to ignore it?" The panelist next to him chimed in, her voice dripping with faux concern. "Come on, Marcus, don't be mean. Maybe she actually believes all this stuff." Marcus grinned, basking in the attention. The audience, both in the studio and at home, was riveted. They waited for Amelia to crack, for the tears to well up, for the carefully constructed facade to crumble, but Amelia didn't flinch. Instead, she shifted slightly in her seat, straightened her spine, and waited for the laughter to subside. The silence that followed hung heavy in the air, thicker than the studio smoke. For a full 2 seconds, no one spoke. The energy in the room shifted, subtly but palpably. The moment was now hers. Then, she exhaled slowly, tilted her head just slightly, and spoke 2 simple words that would change everything. "Are you finished?" Marcus blinked. The challenge in her voice was subtle, but its impact was undeniable. The laughter died in his throat, faster than he had anticipated. He had been so sure he had her cornered, that the audience was firmly on his side. So why suddenly did he feel like he had lost control of the narrative? Amelia leaned forward slightly, her hands still clasped on the table. Her expression remained unreadable. She was not flustered, not angry, simply present. "Are you finished?" she repeated, her voice unwavering. Marcus forced a chuckle, a desperate attempt to regain the upper hand. "Oh, Amelia, don't get all dramatic, it's just—" "No, really," she interrupted, her tone so calm it was unsettling. "Are you finished? Because I want to make sure I let you get all your little rehearsed jabs out before I respond." The room tightened. The panelists shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The camera crew, sensing that something significant was about to unfold, instinctively adjusted their angles. This wasn't the prepackaged takedown they had expected. Amelia tilted her head, neither smiling nor frowning, simply observing. Then, she delivered the blow that would shatter Marcus Stern's carefully constructed image. "See, Marcus, this is what you do. You set people up with smug little sound bites, get your panel to laugh along, and then expect your guest to stumble, get defensive, or shrink, and usually it works. But here's the problem. You didn't do your homework on me." Marcus let out a dry, humorless laugh. "Oh, believe me, Amelia, No, you didn't," she interrupted, her voice now ringing with newfound authority. "Because if you had, you'd know that I don't fold, and I certainly don't let people like you define me." The room was dead silent, a vacuum of suspended disbelief. Marcus sat up a little straighter, his carefully cultivated posture of nonchalance dissolving. For the first time that evening, he wasn't in control. Amelia shifted her weight, her voice picking up just enough to cut through the suffocating tension. "You call me a token, a puppet. You act like I have no agency, no original thoughts, like I'm just here to regurgitate talking points. But here's the irony. You're the one sticking to a script. You came in here with the same tired attacks, the same predictable insults, because that's all you know how to do. Mock, dismiss, belittle. That's your entire playbook. And yet, I'm the one who's supposed to lack originality?" She paused, letting her words sink in. Marcus had no immediate response. Amelia didn't give him room to breathe. "You sit there and act like you care about women having a voice, but the second one speaks up in a way that doesn't fit your narrative. You mock her. You act like you care about young people being engaged in politics, but if they're not reading straight from your script, you try to discredit them. You talk about progress, but the second someone challenges you, You fall right back into the same condescending routine. She leaned back, finally allowing a small, knowing smile to grace her lips. It wasn't a friendly smile. You don't want a conversation, Marcus. You want a punching bag, and I'm not here to be one. Marcus blinked, the carefully constructed mask of confidence finally beginning to crack. The panelists, suddenly uncomfortable, looked at each other, unsure of what to say. One of them cleared their throat, shifting in their seat. The confidence that had permeated the room just minutes before had evaporated, replaced by a palpable sense of unease. The camera zoomed in slightly, capturing the rarest of sights on a live political show. Actual, genuine silence. Amelia Thorne had flipped the entire dynamic of the show in under 2 minutes. And for the first time in his career, Marcus Stern had absolutely nothing to say. But the real impact, the earthquake that would send shockwaves through the media landscape, was yet to come. For a heart-stopping moment, no one dared to break the silence. It wasn't just awkward, it was thick with unspoken tension. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he quickly forced a chuckle, shaking his head as if he was still the conductor of this bizarre orchestra. Wow, Amelia, that was quite the little speech. Did you practice that in the mirror this morning? A weak, desperate attempt to regain control, but it fell flat. The panelists weren't laughing. One of them even glanced nervously at the camera crew, silently wondering if they were still live. Amelia didn't flinch. She merely watched him, her confidence unwavering, as if she were observing a particularly pathetic specimen under a microscope. And then, the unthinkable happened. The show cut to commercial. Not because it was planned, not because they had reached a natural break, but because someone in the control room panicked. The moment Amelia's mic went dead, Twitter exploded. Clips from the exchange spread like wildfire. Holy expletive! Amelia just destroyed Marcus Stern on live TV. They literally had to cut to commercial. I've never seen him this speechless. This was a massacre. The video racked up millions of views in mere hours. Even people who usually scrolled right past anything resembling political commentary were hooked. Liberal commentators scrambled to spin the narrative. Some tried to downplay the moment, claiming Marcus was simply being gracious, giving Amelia a platform to express her views. Others argued that she was being overly dramatic, playing the victim card with calculated precision. But the attempts rang hollow. The clip spoke for itself. And then, things went from bad to worse for Marcus. The network's inbox was flooded with angry emails and tweets. People demanded a response. The ratings for the segment came in, and while viewership was through the roof, the engagement was overwhelmingly negative. Marcus's usual supporters weren't rallying behind him. Instead, some were quietly questioning his tactics. Had he actually been outplayed? Why hadn't he fired back with his usual venom? Why had they cut to commercial so abruptly? The panelists who had been so quick to laugh earlier in the show began distancing themselves from Marcus. One of them, the writer from the progressive news outlet, even tweeted, "To be clear, I don't think Marcus was prepared for that moment. It was uncomfortable. And cutting to commercial only made it worse. That awkward, that unprepared." Which was the polite way of saying that he had choked. Marcus knew it too. He knew he had stumbled, that he had allowed Amelia to dismantle his carefully constructed persona. By the time the show wrapped, his phone was buzzing incessantly. Texts from producers, network executives, his PR team. Everyone was in damage control mode. He scrolled through Twitter, each post a fresh wave of humiliation. Memes were everywhere. Marcus Stern has stopped working. When your entire personality is being smug, but it backfires the moment you realize she wasn't playing defense. The clip was plastered across every major news site before he even left the studio. The headline, "Marcus Stern gets humiliated on live television." He slammed his phone down on the console. This wasn't just bad. This was potentially career-threatening. His producer called. "We need a statement. Damage control, stat." Damage control was standard operating procedure in the media world, but this time, the panic was palpable. The plan was simple. Frame it as Marcus being gracious, giving Amelia a platform to share her perspective. Minutes later, his PR team released a carefully crafted tweet from his account. "Great conversation tonight with Amelia Thorne. We don't always agree, but these discussions are important for democracy. looking forward to more debates like this. The stern truth, gosh, civility. The response was swift and brutal. Dude, you got cooked. Just take the L. Why are you pretending you let this happen? You got wrecked. This is the PR equivalent of pretending you meant to trip on stage. The network wasn't happy. Not because of the viral moment itself, but because of how badly Marcus had looked. One executive scheduled an emergency meeting. There was talk of restructuring the panel format to avoid another disaster like this. A leaked email began circulating online. It was from an unnamed producer at the network. We should have cut to commercial sooner. This was a disaster. Damage control is not working. The leak only poured gasoline on the fire. Now, everyone knew that the commercial break wasn't routine. It was a desperate last-ditch attempt to save Marcus Stern's reputation. He was losing so badly that they had to pull the plug. And now, everyone was talking about it. Meanwhile, Amelia Thorne was doing nothing. No frantic tweets, no self-congratulatory press statements, no victory lap. Just a single post on her account. Let people say what they want. The truth always speaks for itself. The simplicity of the message made it even more powerful. It was a subtle, yet devastating rebuke to Marcus Stern's theatrics and the media circus surrounding the incident. By the next morning, Marcus Stern's reputation hung precariously in the balance. But the true impact of Amelia Thorne's silent confidence was only just beginning to unfold. By the next morning, Marcus Stern was everywhere, but not in the way he was accustomed to. Cable news shows dissected the moment from every angle. Political commentators on both sides of the aisle offered their takes on why he had faltered. Some liberal hosts tried to downplay the incident, arguing that he had simply allowed Amelia too much airtime. But others were less forgiving. This is what happens when you get too comfortable attacking people instead of engaging in genuine debate, one pundit declared. The real blow came from the late-night comedians. One show played the clip, pausing on Marcus's stunned silence, his face frozen in a mask of disbelief. "Folks," the host quipped, "this is the look of a man realizing his entire personality is collapsing in real time." The audience erupted in laughter. Even Marcus's most ardent supporters struggled to defend him. She didn't just win the argument, she became the story. Conservative media outlets hailed her as a hero, dubbing her takedown of Marcus Stern one of the greatest moments in television history. Clips of her unwavering response flooded social media, cementing her status as a political icon. But something even more significant was happening beneath the surface. The narrative surrounding Amelia was shifting. She was no longer just a young, ambitious Republican trying to make a name for herself. She was the woman who walked into a hostile environment and emerged victorious, untouched by the venomous attacks thrown her way. The invitations began pouring in. More interviews, bigger platforms, speaking engagements, even whispers of a potential book deal. People who had previously dismissed her as a naive ideologue were suddenly paying attention. They saw her potential, her strength, her ability to connect with audiences on a deeper level. And Marcus? For the first time in his career, Marcus Stern wasn't setting the conversation. He was the conversation. His show's ratings spiked, but not in a good way. People were tuning in, not to hear his insightful commentary, but to see if he would crack under the pressure, to witness the next chapter in his public humiliation. The network was growing increasingly nervous. Executives scheduled a series of emergency reputation strategy meetings. A senior producer, one of Marcus's staunchest allies, quietly stepped down. It wasn't an official punishment, but everyone knew what it meant. Marcus Stern was damaged goods. And Amelia? She had just cemented her position as a rising force in politics, a voice to be reckoned with. But the real lesson, the one that would resonate far beyond the confines of that television studio, was still to come. Some moments fade into obscurity within hours, swallowed by the endless churn of the news cycle. This wasn't one of those moments. Days turned into weeks, but the clip of Amelia's unflinching response continued to circulate, shared and analyzed and dissected from every possible angle. It wasn't just about a political debate, it was about something deeper, something more fundamental about the human condition. People on both sides of the political spectrum took notice. Some saw it as a cautionary tale. Never underestimate your opponent. no matter how young or inexperienced they may seem. Others saw it as proof that authenticity and conviction will always triumph over manufactured outrage and condescension. But one thing was undeniable. This wasn't just a viral moment, it was a paradigm shift. Marcus Stern had built his career on mockery, control, and carefully scripted takedowns. He never engaged in genuine debate, he simply humiliated. That worked, until it didn't. His downfall wasn't just about a single conversation, it was about the illusion breaking. People saw it happen in real time. They watched someone who always seemed to have the upper hand lose it completely, his power and influence crumbling before their eyes. And once that happens, once the magic is gone, the spell is broken. Amelia Thorne didn't win because she shouted louder, or because she out-insulted Marcus. She didn't win because she was smarter or more articulate. She won because she never flinched. She didn't defend herself desperately or apologize for her beliefs. She didn't allow the room to dictate how she should react. She stayed calm. She called out the game Marcus was playing, and in doing so, she forced him to defend himself. That's what made it so powerful. Marcus Stern's career isn't over, but it's forever changed. The unshakable confidence he once projected will never hit the same way again. His audience has seen him vulnerable. His critics have seen him exposed. He had been dethroned. And Amelia? This wasn't just a viral moment. It was a career-defining one. A moment that made people sit up and take notice. A moment that transformed mockery into a movement. Here's the truth. We all face moments like this in our own lives. Maybe not on live television, maybe not with millions of people watching, but in our own way, we all get tested. We all get put in situations where someone tries to belittle us, where someone expects us to fold. And in those moments, the way we handle ourselves makes all the difference. Do we let them define us, or do we take control of the narrative? Do we succumb to their expectations, or do we rise above them? That's the real lesson here. Confidence, authenticity, and unwavering conviction can conquer even the most carefully constructed walls of condescension. What do you think? Was Amelia's takedown of Marcus Stern a meticulously planned strategy? Or was it simply the result of pure, unadulterated confidence? And what does this story tell us about the state of modern media, where sound bites and manufactured outrage often overshadow genuine discourse? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious to hear your perspectives. I hope you enjoyed this story and found it both inspiring and insightful. Remember, you have the power to define your own narrative. Don't let anyone tell you what you can or cannot achieve. Stay healthy, stay confident, and never be afraid to speak your truth. And if you want to uncover more stories like this, be sure to subscribe to my channel. There's always more to explore, more to learn, and more to inspire.